We will call to order the, April 17th meeting of the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors. Will you please join me with the pledge to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We want to welcome everyone in attendance as well as those that are joining us online. Mrs. Martin, may we please report board attendance?
7 members present tonight. Absent are Ms. Trowbridge and Mr. Benigno.
We have a quorum. Also in attendance is the superintendent and the administrative cabinet. This is our second meeting of the month where most official votes are taken, many of which are listed on a consent agenda, which includes those items which are routine or have been discussed at our work session last week. Our meetings observe the requirements of the school code, legislative directives, the original Act 84 Sunshine Law, all subsequent amendments, judicial rulings, applicable regulations, and our district policies to the best of our understanding and ability. All agendas and related public documents are posted on the district website. We'll start this evening with board commendations. Congratulations to 4 high school students who recently placed in the 2023 Skills USA competition held in January. Logan Weiss, second place in a prepared speech. Lane Buckwater, second place for collision repair. Olivia Armstrong, third place for extemporaneous speaking. And Colin Martin, third place for auto service specialization. Skills USA Championships reward students for their excellence to allow industry to directly evaluate students and their performance and to keep training pertinent to future employees' needs. Students choose to participate in Skills USA in the beginning of the school year and spend time studying and developing their skills in and out of the classroom in order to compete at these competitions in the winter and spring. Congratulations to the high school wrestlers who were named Lancaster Lebanon League All-Stars for the 2023 season. LL League wrestling coaches voted for the All-Star selection. Section 1, Nick Horton, sophomore, Luke Needham, junior, and Abdul Akala, sophomore. Section 1 second team, Luke Morley, junior, Xander Ryder, senior. And Section 1 honorable mention, Tegan Rubel, freshman, Miles Acosta, junior, Tal Stelsford, sophomore. Congratulations to Lori Griner, Smoketown Elementary physical education teacher, who was presented an award from the Heart Association of America. She was recognized for her tremendous fundraising efforts from 1999 to 2000 that raised $106,909 for the Smoketown community to support the Heart Association of America. Lori will be retiring from teaching at the end of this school year, but she has worked in the district since 1999. A shout out to Brownstown Elementary World Changes Club, who raised $974 for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Brownstown teacher, Mrs. Justine Taylor, oversees the club, whose goal is to complete small acts of kindness, but recently just completed a big project. One of the club members, 5th grader Hope Dunbar, was a patient at CHOP 3 years ago, where she underwent brain surgery, and it is Hope's dream to raise money and send notes of encouragement, all crafted by Brownstown World Changers Club, to current patients at CHOP. Congratulations to Conestoga Valley High School journalism students who were honored for their writing. English teacher Mrs. Janae Lapp's students entered the reviews category of the Pennsylvania Press Club's journalism competition. This journalism competition is offered by the PA Press Club and honors students who excel in journalism. The winners are Evan Zimmerman, first place for his work Puppets on Broadway, May Linder, honorable mention for her writing Longwood Gardens, and Aiden Nash, honorable mention for The Owls Breaks Disney's Traditional Grounds. Superintendent's comments. Dr. Zid.
Thank you, Madam President. You'll notice on an entry on the superintendent's report concerning Dr. Smith, he has changed his resignation date from the end of the year to this Friday. While we have made the necessary adjustments in the supervision of the high school pending the appointment of a permanent principal, I would like just to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Smith for his efforts while here at CV. Mike joined the team as COVID was rearing its ugly head, and he, like all other CV educators, fought the good fight to keep our students not only in person, if so desired by the parent, but in person and receiving meaningful instruction. I know educators will say that it wasn't as good as before COVID, but it's still much better than most schools in the state. Being a high school principal is one of the most demanding jobs in the district. In the flagship building of CV, we appreciate Mike for holding the ship steady during his time here and look forward to continuing to not just get back to where we were pre-COVID, but to excel in the direction we are heading with the curriculum instruction and assessment, targeting to provide each student to meet their needs in order to feel a sense of belonging, purpose, support, and success. So I'd just like to thank Mike for his focus on the students and wish him the best of luck in his future endeavors. That's all for tonight, Madam President.
Are there any board members who might like to make comments about district activities? Is there any correspondence?
Yeah, just wanted to mention, board, each of you have the IU board membership ballot in front of you. If you can please complete that ballot on the back side of that form and return that back to me tonight, please, if you can. Thank you.
That takes us to our first presentation from the Home and School Visitor and Social Worker Update. Mrs. Reef and Mrs. DiClemente.
And our newest, Ms. Mabel.
Thank you. Hello.
It's downloading.
Huh?
It's downloading.
We'll just do quick introductions. I'm Katie Reif. I'm the elementary school social worker.
I'm Jenna Mabel, I'm the middle school social worker.
Carla DiClemente, school social worker for the high school and K through 12 for our Spanish-speaking families.
And we are the social work department.
Could
So
say
they,
that 6 years ago, could we?
no, I was a lone
You were the
lone wolf.
department.
And over the last few years, we've added 2 more, so it's wonderful. While we wait for it to download, just wanted to present a few highlights of the year. Obviously, we just spoke about having a third. Jenna Mabel was added for this school year. Carla, I think this is your fifth year. So really excited about having her join our team and expanding our department. Wanted to also highlight our holiday support, which is normally it's always a very large undertaking of our little department. We fortunately have the greatest response to holiday support in the county. And I say that as a department. We are often, other social workers often come to us saying, how do you do that? So we've served this year, we served 515 children in 221 families. And that was in partnerships with Sheets, with Shop with a Buck program through the National Honor Society, and then our community. Every one of those families received every one of those children received at minimum $50 gift cards to Walmart or Target, all the way up to a $225 per child for 48 children from Sheets. So they spend $225. So obviously we reserve that for our high need, mostly the families living in the hotels, so that they're, prioritized based on need. So again, we always like to highlight it just because it is a flagship program that's pretty unique to CV.
And of course, we don't have to tell you how blessed we are to be in the CV community and the support that we do get from the community. One of those initiatives that we were able to partner with was Tanger Outlet. They call us whenever they have clothing from this last donation was Columbia. So it was belts that we definitely need for especially the high school kids, pants, shirts, water bottles. There was 2 huge boxes of items that they donated to our kids. Staples just donated some Crayola kits. So we were able to get those for our teachers and then hold on to them for the start of next school year as well to do for our homeless families that we'll talk about here soon. And then Lafayette Fire Company, they had their own toy drive, and so the excess toys and books that they had, they donated for our holiday program. So we were able to add those to the drive for the Shop with the Buck kids. So parents were able to come pick up the gifts that they were able to shop. The kids were able to shop for at Target, and then kind of just pick.
It was a
from-
lot.
Yeah, like 2 huge tables full of just, I don't know,
Just
karaoke
random
mics
toys.
and dolls and all kinds of really cool stuff. So
So being new to this district, this is actually, something I am in all about, which is our gift card assistance. Quite honestly, it's a little overwhelming. We're given the opportunity to provide to families upon meeting them, immediate assistance. So after screening what the needs are, rather than having to wait, for funding for certain things like clothing and food, there's a multitude of other things that they can be utilized for. We have Walmart gift cards, we have Target gift cards, we have Giant gift cards, we have community aid gift cards, all things that we're able to give a family who's in immediate need. I think we do a really good job screening, so that we're not over gifting families. I find it to be just incredible because it's not something in my previous 10 years of being a homeschool visitor for a district that I had the ability to do that. It's overwhelming, and I have found that families are just grateful beyond belief that they can go and get food to put on their table right now. They don't have to wait for an appointment at the food bank. They don't have to wait for an appointment at the clothing bank. Winter coats that were at an astronomical level of need this year. None of the programs that we typically utilize, for example, Christian Ministries, Community Aid, had availability for winter coats. So being able to give a family the luxury to go and pick out today, because it's 20 degrees out, something that they can put their child in, I think is really awesome, and it speaks to the community and what is afforded here to our students. I can't speak highly enough about the resources that this district has available to them for students and families. It's really overwhelming in a good way.
So we wanted to, we felt this graphic was a nice representation of the things that we strive to accomplish, which is break down barriers that interfere with the academic success of our students. So these are some of the programs and initiatives that we're a part of that align with that goal. For anyone that may not know, Benchmark program, we are a satellite facility here. So Benchmark is a gym that's in the city, and it strives to look at, weightlifting, strength-based training, but organically also having mentors that are there to just form relationships with students and be their champions. So we're able to have that here at the high school. So I stay after with the kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they lift, we talk about their grades, we do check-ins, and it is more like a tier 2 intervention of when students are really struggling to, if they're new, to make a connection. Or we're seeing that they're struggling to make it to school, some of our truancy kids. So we've seen that it's been a great success for those kids that are just kind of needing somewhere or someone to help them belong. So we have that available for our students. So we are also a part of our MTSS and PBIS initiative that we are working on, this year to initiate in all of our buildings. So all 3 of us are a part of those teams. Classroom support, we have been available, especially at the high school with our ES classrooms. I've been in there. Our elementary schools, Katie has supported those. And then lunch duty and however we are needing to be utilized throughout the day, to be honest. So it's nice to have that flexibility in our schedule to be able to support our teachers and our staff. And then our partnership with CBCCS is, again, something to highlight, and SEEDS, that is a newer, do you want to speak more to SEEDS? Partnership that they have offered between CBCCS, that's our clothing bank or food bank, and then SEEDS, they have started with ESL classes for adults. So that's been definitely needed in our community, so it's nice to have that going. And They offer food for families, they have childcare,
And they're
it's
serving 22 adult learners right now in their session, which is, we went from 7 to 22
yeah,
from the
it's
fall
pretty
to the
amazing.
spring. So the growth is incredible.
SAP team, didn't mention that, but we're also a part of our SAP teams at each level.
So our referral data, if you don't mind. So this just kind of gives you the 21-22 data is year to date. So I think we sent in our PowerPoint on Thursday, so whatever date, the 13th or whatever. So that was up until April 13th. So you can just kind of see where we are at the same point of the year. Check-in phone calls, we've been doing a lot more outreach. You'll see our attempted home visits our home visits have gone down, and that speaks to the involvement that we're having more in our buildings. So just kind of, our other category is always the stuff like behavioral support, cap and gown orders, meeting with an agency or school staff, classroom support, helping with transporting students with other staff members. So our other category is really hard. We're limited on how many characters we can have in a list. So our other category is rapidly growing. And a lot, it's sad to say, but we do what we can to keep up to date on this, but we know we miss some stuff. But we are all three really good about inputting what we do so that we can provide that data to anybody who wants to know, or just for us to kind of know. And this is partly how we got to have a third social worker, is because of our data. So
Tell me what that first line means.
the affidavit of guardianships.
Oh,
So it's just evaluating custody arrangements. Is it a homeless situation? What are the circumstances in which an affidavit of guardianship would be warranted?
And the medical would be anything like if we're assisting with, especially vision, we have the modernized partnership. So if a student's family doesn't have insurance, then we're able to provide a voucher to get either the exam completed or frames if maybe they do have vision insurance, but the child broke the glasses and they can't get another pair until the following year. So that's where some of the medical comes in, or if we're assisting with appointments, trying to figure out and a provider that would align or would accept the insurance that the family has.
I think with the medical too, at least for me, I can speak, has been assisting families with their renewals for medical assistance. Because those dates, the COVID deadlines have, come to fruition. And so now families are required, families that were previously, receiving the benefits during COVID, they absolutely have to do their renewals. And I can tell you that hours with families, because of lack of understanding, lack of follow through, trying to differentiate between CHIP and medical assistance and private insurance. And I mean, that in and of itself can be really for me, like a 7-hour day. It's complicated, and there's parts of it, even to now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm still struggling to figure out CHIP and how that all falls into medical assistance. And now they're all going to be coming under one umbrella, which is going to be another change for our families. So I know that when I'm documenting those meetings and those phone calls and sitting with families, I put those under medical usually.
Ready?
Go ahead. Good.
Okay, so homelessness in Conestoga Valley. So our numbers are increasing. Just when I was kind of thinking we were starting to, just get to a place of stability. We have identified within the last 2 weeks at least a handful, if not more. So I don't know if because of the warmer weather, landlords are finding it an appropriate time to begin eviction processes with families, but we're having more families that are being evicted, and there is really not any affordable housing in our school district, and for that matter, in many school districts, because landlords right now are requesting first month's rent, second month's rent, security deposit, and you must have a gross income of 3 times the monthly rent. in order to qualify. And so I'm seeing, I'm sure you're seeing, we're just having a hard time with families being able to get placed. There's not a lot of availability. I don't know if you guys want to speak more. The need is just greater. Hotels are increasing their weekly costs. I know that there was a couple hotels that were like at $390 a month, now they're, or a week, now they're at $500. Wendy has sold.
550 to 550 to 650 as of today. I went to 6 different hotels trying to advocate for a family, and they were all between 550 and 650 a week. And these are not like the Hiltons.
No. And it's really hard once you're in that situation. If you figure you're paying $2,000 a month to stay in a hotel, that doesn't leave a lot of funds to save for first month's rent, security deposit, last month's rent, pet fees, whatever. So the families are getting stuck in a situation that it's really hard for them to get out of. And the rental assistance that is available, the maximum levels that you can receive to either prevent eviction or to get into a new property doesn't come close to the amount of funds that families are in need of right now. So I think we have a really good system, although I think families are getting evicted and staying a little bit more under the radar. And I don't know if that's common or more common, but I feel like they're not as easily found. Transportation, yeah, we find them, but, and transportation, of course, can create a lot of, difficulties as well, just in terms of ensuring that educational stability for those students, so.
Next one.
Continued lack of access to services. So we have long wait lists for IBHS. So IBH services or behavioral health services. It's the wraparound concept where families have in-home services that are provided to children and families. But there's other services that also fall under that. For example, family-based services where it's a team that goes in, works with the family and child on communication patterns, on behavioral strategies. There's also outpatient services, there's medication shortages, there's psychiatrist shortages. It runs the gamut with regard to the availability of what we are able to provide for our students and families right now. Outpatient wait lists for our families is very significant. And the challenge with that is that for those that are medical assistants, receive medical assistance, there only certain providers will accept medical assistance. If you miss an appointment, it's very likely that they're not going to reschedule you for another 60, maybe 90 days. Some agencies won't reschedule you for 6 months. I think what we know about a lot of our families is when they're under stress and duress, they are more it's more frequently that they're going to miss appointments. The medication shortages, especially for our students that are ADHD, astronomical. You can't find an Adderall or Ritalin or any of those medications. You can shop to all the different pharmacies, whether it's in our district, whether it's in our community or a joining community, it's just not available. So that's been, I think, challenging for a lot of families that have children that are diagnosed and newly diagnosed with ADHD. One of the other things I'm running into is families are being discharged from their psychiatrist and medication management because they're missing appointments. And to try to get them back into a waiting list or even into another agency, again, is just challenging. Services are swamped right now, whether it's mental health, whether it's food banks, it really runs the gamut. And I don't foresee that that's going to become any different in the near future. I feel like that's going to be where we're at starting at the beginning of next year. And the needs for our families, especially mental health, is just overwhelming.
Well, and to that point, another trend we're seeing is an increase of parental stress. So they're dealing with their own mental health needs. We have we have parents who are in crisis that we're trying to also assist while they're trying to take care of their children who are also in crisis. So we're really working with the whole family, not just the children that we're serving in the school day. Obviously, we touched on lack of housing options. We legitimately have families in hotels for years, but they're just not, we don't have enough resources to get them out. And this is not, we had a family just recently say, I found a house in York and we're moving to York. I'm like, so glad you found a house. Like, doesn't matter where it is, I'm just glad that you have that permanency for your children. And the increase of cost of living, for the families that are living in homelessness, paying $550, $650 a week in that rent because of the cost of living going up. For regular renters, their rent is going up. Food costs have gone up. The incomes aren't going up too. So it's just causing a lot of familial stress that the kids are carrying that weight of their family into the school day, into our classrooms, into our schools, and we're doing the best we can to help combat that and support them and love them through that, but it's hard.
So the challenges of community agencies, we already talked about some of these, the medical assistance piece, and just the children and youth piece, which again, stress level can then impact the way that parents are, handling or communicating or not communicating with their kids. The other piece that we've been seeing, especially at the high school, is that high attendance or truancy rate. And so when we try to look at, supports for our kids, thankfully we do have benchmark program, but when we're making children youth referrals for attendance, which they have different organizations or agencies that they work with, they're also tapped out. So it's a wait list for those pieces. So we try again to do the best we can to support our kids and families, and obviously that holistic approach. So gotta get creative at times.
I just want to comment, like with the children and youth, the high turnover rate of children and youth and how significant that is for us. We were just at a meeting last week where it was shared that the people that they are bringing into their agency are not qualified to be doing the job. And they're coming out of school with bachelor's degrees and they can't make phone calls and they don't know how to make home visits and they don't know how to write letters. And so they're having to go back and retrain 4-year degreed people to do this extremely stressful, important job. And so they're relying on us more to be making those home visits and to be doing that first level of intervention for families that we're trying to report to them for safety issues. I think that that's significant when they're sharing that information to the community.
Well, there have been several examples that we have in the more recent future where one of us calls the supervisor and then we're still not getting the answer and we go even higher. And a few days later, the agency actually takes custody of children. And so they're missing large pieces of the parental and familial stress that they shouldn't be. And so we're trying to help them because we know that, in years past when they had the supervisors and the caseworkers that their reaction may have been different. So we're trying to help them and work together and partner with them to make sure that kids' needs are being met. Any questions?
It's been a busy year.
I saw in today's paper where they were changing some rules about foster homes.
That they were what?
About children that were put in foster homes, that they're now going to extend that if a family member.
Yeah, it's called kinship.
Is that going to be much help for us or
I think it can be. I mean, we have family or students who are with kinship care. Again, in those circumstances, it's making sure that they're appropriately placed and it's not just you're going to care for this child for now, that it's, supported by the agency to be able to provide us that stability for the kiddo.
Is that what they're extending them without include financial support and services both?
Yeah.
No, typically, so there's another program that's kind of coincides with kinship care. It's called SPLIC. And if they recommend that a child goes into SPLIC, and I can't remember off the top of my head what that acronym stands for, they don't get, okay. So they are put into a quote unquote permanent placement with either a friend or a relative They do continue to get a stipend, but they do not continue to get the agency services. And the custodial rights are turned over to that particular family. And typically that's for older children. It's not necessary, it's usually like middle school age and up, but they have been looking at it more as an option for all children because they don't have foster homes. They're not placing children as readily as they used to. I know at least for like attendance and truancy, after a long time, they would place children in foster homes or into other types of programs like Bethany's Children's Home or Reading Home or Children's Home of Reading. But they're not doing that because there's not the availability of that. So they're coming up with more creative options to keep children in their communities. But yet they don't really have the services to support that. So it's unique.
One other question. I know over the years, schools have taken on more and more social services because we understand, well, social and medical services, because we understand it affects education. My question is, where is the legal responsibility to provide these services?
It's a great
I
question.
mean, if a child's education stumbles because they couldn't get these social services, is that responsibility on us?
So I can that's kind of what SEEDS is trying to do, as well as to partner with the school district to provide housing, health services, and educational services like the ESL program. So out of that exact need is why SEEDS is being created to partner with the school district to be able to offer some of that stability that,
I mean, there's always been a sort of cooperative relationship with school services and government or public services. I just wondered, the cooperation is wonderful, but at some point, is there a responsibility being put anywhere, or is the government just saying, you folks are doing just fine?
You know what, I kind of feel like I think that's a great question, really, because I don't necessarily think anyone's saying it per se, but I think it's like this, it's an unspoken responsibility, because we have children 6.5 hours a day. And when services in the community are lacking or unavailable, the school becomes kind of the hub.
One-stop shop.
Because that's a great point. We're like the one-stop shop because they're here. We have eyes on 6.5 hours a day, more hours than anybody, whether it's a social service agency or a therapist or even a doctor. And so I don't think there's a rule. I don't think that there's like that. I think it's like an unwritten expectation, if you will, or an assumption that the school will take care of it. And
So they don't have
where the schools are gonna feed the children, right? And the schools are gonna, take care of, we're gonna clothe them and we're going to, dispense medications because parents forget to give their children their medications in the morning. So then they're, given at school by our certified nurses. I mean, again, it's not written. I don't think it's an expectation, but I do think it's an assumption and an expectation.
If they don't do it, we will.
And if we don't do it,
who will?
who will?
Right.
Well, my problem is if we,
It comes back to our final services that we have to then support, which come down through our 504 plans and our special ed pieces, because so often all of these things are tied together.
Yeah.
So it is in our best interest to try to provide all of this support on the front end if it's not happening in the community, because it does affect the back end of the support that we are mandated to provide.
that's where I'm getting at,
it's an
because
effort
all
on-
of these things impact their education.
Absolutely.
But at what point are we funding everything without getting proper input from the level of government, I should say, that should be providing these?
It looks completely different than 10 years ago. It looks completely different than 5 years ago in terms of you can't make referrals outside anymore. So if you want something to happen and if you want support to look different in the school, you have to do it yourself. So it's turning into that by default.
But
Was
they're
it
not
set up to be that way?
transferring the
No.
funding that used to be in public services to be available for the schools, right?
It should be switched. Do you have any plans for that?
Don't I wish? I'll get my magic wand.
Mine's been in.
We have
for a
plenty of
while.
those.
Thank
Mine's
you
in the
for your work
shop.
you do. Anyone else have
Anybody
any
else have
questions to
questions?
these ladies?
I just want to say thank you. I know your job is like
Yes.
extremely difficult, so
But
I
don't
hope
think
that you
it's
all
that-
are taking care of your own mental health as well.
But
We
don't
have each
ever
other.
Don't ever call your job thankless, because I assure you, it's
And it doesn't
appreciated.
look like you've lost your passion for it and for kids, and that's super important, so thank you so much for that.
Well, that's the reason we're still in it,
Yeah.
because those little kids
Those
get
little
your heart.
stinkers.
Even the big ones,
Yeah.
the big kids, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is the point in our agenda where we allow the public to address the board on any issue that's on the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the board?
Madam President, Marilyn did not hear the approval of the agenda on item E.
She's right.
Okay.
You're right. Nobody stopped me. Usually you do. Okay, we need to go back. I gave the explanation, but never took the vote for the agenda approval. I'm sorry.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And you can put that in the minutes anywhere you'd like.
Thank you.
Any comments from CBEA? Any other employee groups? We're down the consent agenda. Before I ask for a motion, I'm just going to bring to your attention that we have a first reading of the second half of the 300s. We put it off from last week. Does anyone need to have that item separated to ask a question or concern?
Can I have H separated and just voted on separately? Do we go policy by policy or just?
No, I'm talking about G. H are the ones we already went over
Right,
one
correct.
by one.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and this would be the second and final reading.
Right, correct.
Did you want to revisit one of those?
Well, I mean, yes, I had voted no on it last time and it's just for the
Okay.
record. So I would like to pull that out separately to vote on
Okay,
it.
but just for a separate vote,
But
not for
correct.
discussion.
Right, I
Okay.
think we discussed it to death.
Does anyone feel we need to pull off G to discuss any of those? If not, then I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda A through R with the exception of H.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gensel.
Aye.
Mr. Dillman.
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka.
Aye.
Mr. Talley.
Aye.
Mr. Hurst.
Aye.
Dr. Martin.
Aye.
Mrs. Groff.
Aye. I now need a motion to approve consent agenda item H.
Motion to approve consent agenda item H.
Second.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Dillman.
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka.
Aye.
Mr. Talley.
Aye.
Mr. Hurst.
No.
Dr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Gensel.
Aye.
And Mrs. Groff.
Aye. Thank you. Dr. G, would you like to speak to the Lancaster County Academy's operating budget?
Yes, Lancaster County Academy has been a great partner for the district on providing an alternative opportunity for our students to graduate. Pleased to announce that their new budget for this year, there is no increase in tuition costs for us.
Drum roll.
They've done a great job in expanding and also bringing in 2 new districts. So kudos to the faculty and staff over there. We're looking at $5,245 per student per year. Per seat.
One
Yep.
seat can take multiple students.
Correct.
Are we still at 11? Was that the number was, or?
Right now, we're at, I think, 9. If you look,
Okay.
check my Lancaster Academy report, I think I put it in there.
Thank you. And so we're looking at an approval next month for their budget.
No, we approved it
Oh, I'm sorry,
tonight.
approval.
Yeah, we'll approve it tonight because they have to have the
Thank you.
final by May.
Thank you.
Now we're even.
Yes, we are.
Can I have a motion for Lancaster County Academy budget, please?
Motion to approve the Lancaster County Academy budget.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Kapka.
Aye.
Mr. Talley.
Aye.
Mr. Hurst.
Aye.
Dr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Gensel.
Aye.
Mr. Dillman.
Aye.
Mrs. Groff.
Aye. Item B, interim principal.
With Dr. Smith's resignation and him leaving on Friday, we are asking the board to approve Dr. Hovanek as the interim principal. As you know, we brought her in as interim assistant principal. She was a former principal at Fritz Elementary. With the ongoing interview process, we don't want to muddy the interview process by having one of the other assistant principals be the interim principal. Dr. Hovanek is more than qualified, brings a sense of stability and senior leadership to the building. So we would recommend the board approves the updated from assistant principal to principal position for Dr. Hovanek.
Do we have a motion, please?
Motion to approve Dr. Havanek as interim principal for the high school.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, we have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Talley.
Yes.
Mr. Hurst.
Aye.
Dr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Gensel.
Aye.
Mr. Dillman.
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka.
Aye.
Mrs. Groff.
Aye. That takes us to board reports. I'll start with mine.
Oops, finance and operations report first.
Oh, yeah. Well, are there any questions on finance and operations or curriculum?
I just wanna say on the curriculum report, I like it better. Whoever changed that, I like the way
Dr.
that
Mann.
it flows. Thank you, Dr. Mann.
idea. We went with the change.
So I like my idea.
The change.
Nothing wrong with that.
I just think it makes more sense.
Yeah, it used to be sort of cut, it felt sort of cut and pasty.
Right.
the way it was.
Yes, and it was like really grade specific and it was
Well,
weird.
you've earned your pay this month.
Okay, thank you. So
Federal
much.
funds.
No federal fund update.
Okay, back to the other reports. The IU report, there's a couple of things I'd like to add to that in the way of legislation. This is not good news, that the courts decided that since IDEA does not permit compensatory damages, that a family can now run 2 lawsuits at the same time. Just thought you'd like to know that was coming down the pike. I assume Mr. Schaefer knew that was coming down the pike and is not excited. The other one is, there is, we're back again to interscholastic sports. We don't seem to be able to get rid of this, we probably never will. The Office of Civil Rights, the OCR, that runs Title IX, has come out with their final regulations, which again is in a public comment period. And they did what we should have known they were done. They wrote it in such a way that we have no idea what we're supposed to do. They could have been attending our board meetings because they focused, luckily, on 2 things, safety and competition, which is what this board had done. So we could all be justices at this point. But they also didn't bother to define those. They didn't come up with any guidelines. We don't know what it means, we didn't know how to distinguish it. I listened to one presentation where they went down state to state. Some states specifically applied the ban only to girls' sports. I don't know how they get away with that one. Some states specifically mentioned which sports, like track you have to allow, but maybe certain other ones you don't. So we are still in no man's land.
So this is my issue with it. We've been in no person's land for 9 years on this,
Or
ever
longer.
since we went to the
It could-
national.
It could go on forever.
It can be, which I think leaves us at risk.
Now, as long as the law is not settled, we are not at risk. If
But-
we were to make a decision
Yeah.
that a student and their parents weren't happy with, they could sue to allow them to participate, but they couldn't sue us for breaking the law because there is no law and there is no definitive judicial ruling on how those rights are applied. What we have done is protect ourselves from that very thing.
Yes, and our protection is our policy,
Yes,
so,
yes, our protection is our policy.
correct.
So as long as we're not breaking our policy or any
Correct,
law,
understand.
we're good. And
Yep.
right now, our policy also mentions the very same things that this ruling
Sure.
regulation is mentioning. So we're staying very close to what we're being told to do, which is all we really want to do. Of course, we aren't going to be the ones to decide
Legally,
this.
we're on strong footing, Mike.
Yeah, it's fine.
And rather than wait till afterwards, if anyone is interested in this, I went to Senator Almond's breakfast for getting out just in time to make the Via breakfast. That's their new initiative. I did explain to him in the question and answer session that, this may be a very good commission because it's going to go all the way down to several levels with parents and everything. But it's going to take at least this legislative session, which you may or may not realize is 2 years. I explained to him that we have kids right now, that we need to be addressing their needs. And that we are not, I forget what the term is they use there, suggesting that antiquated, that we are not antiquated, that we are forward-looking, and that we are doing many of the things that he's suggesting that we ought to try doing, most schools are already doing. Blended schools, some online, everything individualized. We do have to get these people into our schools more to show them what's really happening. I think the academy is pretty well covered. And the IU, the same thing in my written report. Mr. Hirsch, is there anything from the CTC?
Yeah, a couple things I just wanted to let you guys know of real quick. I thought it was pretty cool last month, Lancaster City Mounted Police visited the Animal Production and Science Technology Program in the Willow Street campus. Also, Colin Martin, how you had talked about earlier, who placed third in Skills USA,
Yeah.
whatever. They have a two-person team for the Skip Wagner Automotive Competition. We put it on PAA, sorry, Pennsylvania Automotive Association. And so he and another student is actually not from CV, that's Andrew Lockman from Calico, but they were on a team together and they placed second in that, so I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Also, Rachel Bachman is the CV student here that is currently working with ECI through the co-op program and is working over in the new
ECI.
ECI, one of the contractor working on the new Middletown, new
Okay.
Smoketown school over there.
Okay.
So she's actually in the carpentry program at Brownstown,
And working over here.
working over here on the new school. I thought that was
That is
cool and highlight that.
Yes.
And then also they have their annual Fly on the Run fundraiser that they have every year coming up here, May 3rd and 4th. 3rd's the banquet and auction, and then the 4th is the fly fishing tournament. And last year, that fundraiser raised $120,000, so it's a pretty substantial fundraiser for
I
them, so.
would say so.
Yeah. Yep.
Construction team update.
I'm sorry, can I ask, Phil, can I ask, is there any way that we could promote that student's involvement in the construction of the new smoke town?
Maybe, send me any details and I'll promote the heck out of it.
Okay. Awesome. Yep.
Pick me like horseshit.
That's why we have an administrative team here tonight. Anything from the construction group beyond that?
Do an update?
Hmm?
Do an update on
Yeah, sure.
Smoketown.
Smoketown and a couple items on the middle school, and I'll start with the middle school. One of the open items was the gymnasium course, and it was the last item to be, other than punch list and detail items, was the bleachers to be installed, and they, with the exception of a few small details, they are installed. So we have to get it all reviewed, punch list, and it's ready to use as far as I've been
How long is the punch list for the building? Is there anything left yet?
Well, how long is the list? There's still items, they are pecking away at them, they're working away as they complete areas. Certainly new lists are created. I think, on the MEP side, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, I think they're really staying on top of it. I think the plumber's completely done. There'll be warranty items that comes back for. Electrical side, I think is in great shape. The mechanical has some detail items that they have to work on. Plus, we still have the code required dampers that have to be installed, which is a summer work project. There's a couple areas where they have to install those, which will include the GC and the mechanical contractor. The general contractor is moving at his punch list. He'll probably certainly be a couple months to complete those details and those items.
Can we look forward to opening in the fall for next school year? Is it done? Done, finished, overdone?
I feel confident that yes, that would be the case. All items, exterior items that have to be addressed this summer are already scheduled to be addressed, from painting to landscaping and those types of things. Interior work will be well completed. One of the actually two major things that I should say for the summer work is installing these fire dampers in the major ventilation system or duct system. But the other is terrazzo work. And again, they're anxious to get it done, but it just while the school's occupied, it just makes no sense.
I understand that, but once the school is empty, it'll be able to be completely finished?
Correct.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Smoketown, right now, it's approximately 45% complete. The bulk of the work, I think that first photo, if you could scroll back to that, I think will pretty much describe areas A and B. They are into putting the new work in, the new mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-ins throughout the corridors, throughout the classrooms. We have advanced to even finishes in areas A and B. The classroom finishes in the form of paint, block film paint in various rooms. I think I included a few pictures on that. Ceramic tiles being installed in areas A and B. As far as C, D, E, and F, again, we continue to do concrete slab infill. That's generated from underground rough-ins that have to be done. So take out the old slab, do the mechanical rough-ins under the slab, and then reinstall the concrete. Masonry work is moving through basically old opening infills, a little bit of new walls here and there, but that's progressing quite well. Structural steel has progressed. That work consists of any supports needed for the operable partitions and then also the new mechanical equipment on the roof. Here's some examples of the painting. And I'm not responsible for colors. And so this is area A. But yeah, everybody's playing well together and moving forward. And I heard ECI mentioned earlier. ECI is the general contractor for this project.
The whole new world over there, isn't it?
Well, it's a different type of project also, but yes, it's a whole new, yes. Yes.
Any questions? If not, thank you.
Yep.
Any other reports? Any board members that attended other committee meetings? If not, is there anyone from the public who would like to address any other issues? Does the board have any announcements or initiatives that it wants to address?
This week is our TSA kids are going out for their regional competition. So naturally, we wish them luck, TSA kids and stuff. I'm sure it'll be a whirlwind experience for them.
Yeah, they do great. Is that with the state?
Yeah, it's at some resort, I can't remember the name.
Seven
Seven
Springs.
Springs.
Wow, everybody knew but me. Yeah, so I think it's just cool that they're getting to do that, and especially with all the in-person stuff now, kind of kicking back in. I think for the middle schoolers, it's going to be a bit of a shock. I know my sixth grader is a little nervous about it, but it'll be good. So we're excited about that.
Any other board initiatives anyone wants to address? Well, the dates are listed for next month's meetings. And that much said, I will take a motion to adjourn to executive session for legal and personnel reasons.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?